And welcome to the Midday Show. I'm Jeff Everett. Coming onto your screen right now, Mark Messina. Before we get to the most important question of the day, Trump's birthday, turns 75. We want to talk about kind of like presidential retirement, like what it means now that Donald Trump is out of office, and what does that mean for a retired president versus what it used to mean. And there's a really interesting story about an OnlyFans account kind of getting into a school district and causing some suspensions. Who was suspended, who wasn't suspended, really interesting story. And then just some tidbits that we're going to cover from the weekend, some interesting stories. But of course, the most important question of every day, Mark, how are you feeling? Can I get right now? I think you feel frazzled.
Can I just say Jeff is in a mood today? I don't know what went on through the weekend. I don't know if his girlfriend was mean to him. I don't know if his parents told him that they're leaving everything to his sister. I'm sitting here texting my kids. All of a sudden, I hear the music.
Yeah.
And I was like, are we up? He's like, yeah, we're ready. We're ready. Let's go. So then I was, so here, hold on. I got to jot down a couple notes. And in the weekend wrap-up thing, there's a couple.
Real quick, tell everyone how you're feeling.
I mean, I guess I'm good. I'm just kind of like.
You seem,
you know, I feel like that guy who's sitting on the bench while all of a sudden the coach is like, hey, go pinch hit. And you're like, where are my batting gloves? Where am I? You know, it's like usually you like a little warning from like an inning before, like, hey, if there's a guy on base when you know, Tommy comes up, you're going to go hit for him. And then, you know, you get a little mental preparation.
Always, you should already be mentally prepped.
Well, I am. I know we already talked about this stuff earlier, but I was just thinking about something. Oh,
always ready.
Okay. Okay, I'm good. Let's go.
Donald Trump turned 75 today. A lot of different ways. You and I have talked about having like a Trump discussion and which way to go about it. Because I think there's like, obviously there's political side. Obviously there is the like morality side of Trump. But I think more than anything else, like you and I have never actually on air just had like a very basic conversation about Donald Trump. So we thought today would be a good day when he turns 75.
Because it's his birthday.
Because it's his birthday, and we thought, by the way, and I didn't know this, just kind of looking up. Do you know where Donald Trump went to college?
Mm-hmm.
Where did he go to college?
University of Pennsylvania. Yes.
So he is a U of Penn grad, which I personally like. I did not know that. Do you know what his net worth right now is estimated by Forbes in 2021?
Okay, the last question was a lot easier.
Yeah, the last one was like, I did not know this. Again, I'm just looking it up now.
Well, he was, because there's something, there are a lot of Ivy League schools that don't have presidents.
Correct.
That like Harvard has, Yale has, because both the Bushes went to Yale, correct?
Yes.
But he was the first president that is a Penn graduate. I'm trying to think, is he the first president who graduated from a Pennsylvania university?
That I don't know. He first he went to Fordham. Did you know that?
Oh, no, I didn't know that.
Yeah, first he went to Fordham. I don't know though. I don't know if he graduated from Fordham. I just know that he like went to Fordham.
Well, so he has a degree from Penn.
Okay.
So maybe he has multiple degrees, and maybe and he's a New York City kid, right?
So Fordham makes sense. I think he started at Fordham and ended at U of Penn. I could be wrong, but I think that's
no. I didn't know that part. Net worth.
If you had to guess. Forbes in 2021, Forbes estimated it at $2.4 billion.
Okay, I would have said $1 billion.
Okay.
So I would have been way off, but that's a tough one.
Oh, no,
that is a tough one.
I'm not saying you should have known. That's why I like the guessing game.
I would have had to read. Like, I read Penn. That's why I knew that.
Can you name his spouses?
Yes.
Let's hear it.
Melania.
Yep.
Ivanka's the daughter, right? Ivana.
Yes. Ivana was
the wife. Yes, and Marla Maples was in between.
Correct. I don't know this. Who is Marla Maples?
His second wife.
I know, but was she somebody? Like, was she
that's a good question.
Okay.
She became famous because she was Trump's mistress and second wife. And
I've only ever heard of Melania and Ivana. I did not know there was a Marla Maples.
Yes, and one of the kids
belongs to Marla Maples.
Yes, I'm pretty sure.
I did not know that. So a lot of different things here.
One of the great stories. This is a stupid little story that has nothing, because we want to get back to Trump. Sean Landeta, who football fans know was the punter for the New York Giants.
Okay.
And back in their Super Bowl with Bill Parcells. Sean Landeta was the punter. And Sean Landeta went to Towson State University back then in Baltimore.
Yes.
And I had a buddy who was their football broadcaster.
Okay.
So he knew Landeta.
Okay.
And while a lot of this stuff was going on, like Sean Landeta was the punter for the Giants, which isn't that big of a deal, but the Giants were Super Bowl champions and contenders and Super Bowl champions. So he was somebody.
Yes.
So he had the role at a lot of these public events when Trump was having, this is the story that I got from my buddy who knew Landeta, who's in the, that they would go to these big functions when Trump was leaving his first wife and having the affair with Marla, that Sean Landeta was Marla's date to these big social events. Right. So Marla could get there because she couldn't come with Donald, but Donald was there. So that's how they got to these. So there were places where she was on Sean Landeta's arm. That's the rumor. Whether that's true or not, but my source is pretty decent.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. I mean, a lot of different ways to go with this. This is the one, like, when I was driving the car today, this is the one that kind of kept popping into my head, and how differently you think of somebody 5 years later, 10 years later, 15 years later. There was a time where, like, people didn't necessarily agree with him. People didn't necessarily always like him. And it wasn't even that he wasn't controversial, but I think it's fair to say, like, there was a time where Trump was kind of fun.
Well, I think
there was a time where even if you didn't agree with him or hated him, like, he was a talking point, and you could have fun with it. And there was a time where, like, a Trump conversation could be fun.
I think that there were times he was a little bit like the dude from American Idol, the mean guy.
Oh, Simon Cowell.
Simon. Even the people that didn't like him kind of loved him. Because he was that person. But yeah, there was that, to get this point, I want to get this point out before I forget it. The lasting impression years and years from now, what Trump will mean, whether you love him, whether you hate him. And I don't think we've ever seen a more polarizing president.
Subversive. Yeah.
But when he was running, there was a good friend of mine who said, this is what Trump represents. He represents mainstream society, giving a double middle finger to the political machine and saying, we don't like any of you, we don't trust any of you. And all you people that says, well, you need to be a politician, we're throwing in an outsider because we don't like you. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot to be said for that. And it is open. Now when there's discussion of guys like Mark Cuban and The Rock and Jay-Z and it wasn't Jay-Z.
Kanye West.
Kanye. Yeah, I threw in Jay-Z. But you throw in those names, and before it would have been, wow. But now all of a sudden, like, is Mark Cuban a real candidate if he wants to run? And it's not just because of whether you think Trump has had great success or terrible success or whatever, but he exemplified that society doesn't trust politicians, and we're like, we'll put in this guy and we'll take our chances. And that really says a lot about where we are as a country.
Yeah, there was, like, personally, like, my dad and I have talked a lot about this and different people in my life. It wasn't so much about, like, originally, like, early on, it wasn't even about supporting Trump. There was just, for a lot of people, it was basically the knock against who you weren't voting for. And so, like, to your point, like, it was a vote against the establishment and all those things. Early on, like, very early on, like, late 2015, I was telling people, like, he's going to win. And it wasn't even about
you and, like, Bill Maher.
Yeah, no. And my dad, I give my dad a ton of credit because my dad, like, drives around and goes to, like, he gets the morning cup of coffee with, like, the local restaurant and stuff, and, like, listens and he hears. And, like, early on, like, him and I were, like, going to places and listening, and it was like, oh, he's going to win. Like, this is, and it wasn't about wanting him to win, not wanting him to win. It wasn't about left, right, or else. You just listen to the sentiment of people talking around here and around different areas, and it was, like, very apparent.
Well, I think the immediate, novelty is not the right word. The immediate attraction about Trump as a presidential candidate was he gave everyone the impression that he's going to say what he feels. And that was so refreshing from a political, because there's so much political speak and there's so much that he was like the one that he is going to say things that are honest. Or that he feels. That he feels
he's giving an honest answer.
Now, as time has gone on, that's been part of his downfall he said a lot of things that he shouldn't have said, or that he didn't research, or whatever the case may be.
I've made the argument to several people, going right along with what you're saying. I've made the argument to whoever will hear it, he has no middle ground. And what I mean by that is like, he either did exactly what he said he was going to do, or he lied to everybody. And depending on the issue or the topic, like that is the truth of it. And that goes along with like, there was no political rhetoric. Like we aren't just saying this to try to appease this person or that person. And so for me, like I've always said, like he's either lying straight to your face, or he's absolutely 100% telling you exactly what is real and what he believes.
And I think he has shown, you know, in this aspect of society for an outsider, and I know we had Schwarzenegger win in California, we had Jesse the Body Ventura win, and we've had celebrities win things before, but not president. Nobody ever really thought that this was going to happen.
Sure.
He has been, you know, as we say, the first one through the wall. So in a lot of ways, but the people coming up behind him, there will be other celebrity candidates, and you know what they can learn from him is you need to bring that level of real world honesty and a little bit of bluntness, and that's what politicians lack.
Yes.
And that if they can be a little more polished about it, he came across as the people on the left they feel like he just insulted the left for 4 years, and so whoever's next, no matter what side they're on, if they can grasp his bluntness and his feeling like when he says something, he means it. Because we always watch politicians and we're like, hey, did he really just say that? Like they don't even mean it.
And the crazy, like this is the part that I think now that we're like, I don't want to say we're removed from it, but now that it's been a little while and it's 2021, I still will back this up. We were a pandemic away from 4 more years of Donald Trump. And we were like the rhetoric and what you heard before March of 2020, like he was going to get 4 more years.
Even in the middle of the pandemic.
Yeah.
Now I thought I thought there was a chance he could lose. When the Democrats threw out Biden, I thought there's no way he's going to lose. And even as it got closer to and we're just coming off an election where everyone thought Hillary was going to win, and then Trump ended up winning at the end.
Right.
And even though the polls kept saying Biden's ahead, Biden's ahead, I'm like, I don't think, and I agree with you. If it wasn't for Corona, Trump would be in office.
He probably would be in office. And I've said this was the part about Corona, and it goes back to what I said about like he was either 100% saying the truth of what he thought was real, or he was completely lying. Once the pandemic started, that became very difficult for him to do. But it became harder to walk that line. Right. And also too with the pandemic, you just needed somebody that was willing to put the right people in place and listen. And I've said before, it's not about who I think would have done a better job or if past president or anything else. I just know that there are people that he just wasn't going to listen to the people that maybe he needed to listen to in that point. Because up until that point, you could dislike his policy or you could dislike his rhetoric or what he stood for. But like you said, like you kind of knew where he stood. And there was a faction of people in America who liked that. I think once the pandemic started, it became very hard for him to like walk that line anymore.
Well, and now what makes him fascinating, as you point out, presidential retirement, is that every president in our lifetime has just kind of gone off into the sunset. They've become an ambassador. They've become a this. They've become a figurehead that, and that's like they've kind of done that. He has not. And, he's 75 today. So a little quick math, next election, years ago, we would have said, there's no way we're electing. He can't run again. He'll be 78 years old. Well, how old's Biden?
Yeah, we just did it.
So he's very much in play.
Oh, yeah.
And so now I know it was Grover Cleveland, wasn't it, that won and then was off and then won again?
No, I'm not sure.
I think it was Grover Cleveland. Somebody did it back in the day that there was a gap in between. So this wouldn't be unprecedented in American history. Yeah. And he has not gone off into the sunset. He is still. Yeah. And this is also unprecedented. Not only do we never had a celebrity president before, and I guess you could say Reagan was a little bit of he was more so than ever, but he'd been a governor. He'd been a politician.
Not only that, just the platforms changed, right? So it's not just about celebrity status. It's about like social and 24/7 news. And so, I mean, to compare him and Reagan is hard because Reagan just didn't have any of that to kind of like expel on or like expand on.
And to a generation of people, it's like the thing in Back to the Future when he's like, Ronald Reagan's the president and Dr. Brown goes, the actor?
Right.
Like he had been so far removed from when he was really an actor.
Yeah.
Like to Trump, to a lot of it, like Trump was just on The Apprentice and he was always in. So yeah, it's
unique.
It is unique. It is incredibly unique.
I said it's different to have a president retire or out of office. And like you use the word diplomat. And there's this idea of like you're supposed to represent the country and the people and the work you've done and what you did. And you're supposed to kind of be like a
carry the
milestone,
torch.
Kind of like there is like a little something to that. And like to your point, like I think in his mind, like the torch isn't extinguished. Like,
no. He got released from his team and he's going to go sign with another team and he's ready to play again.
Yeah. And so like it does bring up the question kind of like, what does it mean to be a retired president? Are you really out of the game? And not that I think like it's not that past presidents sat on the sideline. Like past presidents have been very active in campaigns and elections and for their party and different people. But like George W. Bush always comes to mind when I think about this stuff because there was a lot of people that did not like George W. Bush by the end of his presidency. And I've always said, like, at the moment he retired, it was like a flip switched. And all of a sudden, like, oh, George, like, he's kind of lovable. Oh, yeah. Like, oh, George, like, he threw a hell of a first pitch after night. Like, and, like, Trump's the first president that, like, it just isn't going to have that. Like, there's just not going to be this, like, sentiment of, like, well, it was done and over. And like, yeah, there may have been some things we didn't like or rough times, but there was this. That's just not going to happen for him like it did for Bush and Clinton and past people who maybe there were aspects of them we didn't love. But once it was done and over, there was this kind of like, well, he was the president and we're going to respect that. And this is different. It's really different.
And the analogy I made about, him being released by a team and picked up by a new team was totally like, that's what happens in sports. I'm not saying he's been released by the Republican Party and he's going to be picked up by another party. Like, I wasn't saying that, but he clearly feels like he's not done, and we've never seen that before. Not from a president, and not in our lifetime.
No, and like I said, he would have won if it wasn't for the pandemic.
I think
he would still be in office. So
I think so too.
So
we're speculating, but I firmly believe that.
Yeah, no, I believe it too. Thank Wise Markets.
Wise Markets, thank you for sponsoring Midday Show. You can get all your grocery needs. Again, this is in the summertime. We are loading up on the outdoor stuff, but they still have everything from, pharmacy, bakery, lottery tickets, flowers, all the other stuff that goes along with. Or if you just need a bag of ice to keep all your stuff, you can get coolers there, you can get patio furniture there, you can do all that stuff at Wise Markets, which are everywhere in every community throughout North Central PA. And there's a couple hundred of them around the region.
Oh, yeah.
So thank you to Wise Markets. And you can also still do the Wise to go, and you can order your groceries ahead of time and just go in and pick them up. So all the latest conveniences of modern grocery stores, plus locally founded here in Sunbury, Pennsylvania, right here in North Central Pennsylvania. So thank you for their support as we continue to support them.
Nice. Join the Midday Show Facebook group. Automatically have a chance to win. If your name is drawn, we'll spin that fancy wheel there over Mark's shoulder. Today's random winner from the Midday Show is Brandy Campana.
Here we go,
Brandy. Let's do it.
I think we got a Monday. I think we got a loser Monday, but we'll give it a shot. Because even when I feel like a loser, a lot of times I win because I'm just that good.
Oh, there it is.
I'm that good. Eat and Run.
Eat and Run Catering.
Eat and Run Catering.
Congratulations, Brandy.
Eat and Run Catering is good. They catered our last thing.
Yes.
Yeah, they are very, very good.
Yes, they are.
So you'll enjoy that. Congratulations to Brandy. There I am. All I do is win.
It's pretty impressive. OnlyFans school suspension. You told me this story, and there's a lot of different ways to go about this. Before you tell the story, do you fully grasp OnlyFans? Like, do you really understand it?
I just want to say that I was scrolling through, and I saw the story, and when Jeff and I were talking, we were talking on the phone before we got to the office today, and I said, what's that site called? Like Members Only? And I hear that there's just I can hear the blank on the other end. And Jeff's like, what is he talking? I was like, that kind of like sexy picture site. He goes, you mean OnlyFans? And then like members only was the cool, your cool members only jacket from the 80s.
Yes.
It was like, so that's the funny way to start the day. But I know like OnlyFans, you subscribe and you.
Yes. So the politically correct.
Isn't it like Playboy online?
Well, that's what it's turned into. The politically correct terminology would be like it's a crowdfunding platform, meaning you can offer up things and the crowd can support you financially for doing said thing. So OnlyFans wasn't, and it's privatized. So like you can keep it. So like the photos can stay on there, like they're locked away, stuff like that. So like they can't just like take it and download it and run away with it. Okay. So originally it was supposed to be OnlyFans, meaning like privatized messaging, things like that for celebrities, different things. And then the pandemic kind of like made this happen even faster than I'm sure OnlyFans expected. But obviously it became a way of like, I don't want to call it legal prostitution, but it has become like a way for people to sell goods featuring themselves to others, if that makes sense.
So it's like a show.
Kind of, because you can share video, you can show photos, text messaging, like you can share just about everything in a digital manner. So it's like a legal digital. I hate using the word prostitution, but that's kind of
it's somewhat into. It's a pornography in that,
but it doesn't have to be.
But it doesn't. It right.
doesn't. That's the weird part about it is like there's not. It's used for that, but there are other like avenues as well.
It's not always used for that.
Correct.
Okay.
And that's not what its original intention was.
Okay.
But COVID and everything kind of like if a certain percentage of that was before the pandemic, once the pandemic started, it took off that way.
Well, the story I read was there was a mom of three, and her kids went to private school, which again, private school is different than public school. They have the rules; they can do whatever they want. But she was one of them, a model on OnlyFans, and she's married. With the blessing of her husband, that they thought this was going to be cool.
Okay.
And that they said it ranged between from like lingerie pictures to they called it tasteful nudes to that she was like the pretty girl next door is basically the way they were doing it. And the school found out because apparently one of the dads of one of the other students who is a member of OnlyFans saw the pictures, shared them, reported them, and the school was like, this is not the image that we want to have for the mother of our students. So they expelled the 3 students.
Okay.
So the question becomes, A, it's legal. And they're obviously private schools. So they can do what they want. They can turn away what they want. But the other aspect is she is married, and it was with the blessing of her husband. It wasn't anything fake. Apparently, they're making pretty decent money, and doing it like through the site. They were making good money, and that there was no disciplinary action against the dad's kids. They didn't expel those kids, so it's not okay for mom to post pictures of herself on the site. But it's okay for a dad to subscribe and look at the pictures on the site. And that seems to be where the women's lib hypocrisy would come out and say, or the women's lib would say that's hypocritical,
sure.
And they have a pretty decent case.
They do. Can we go even one step back?
Sure.
Because there's also the idea too of the kids are suspended. And you could make the argument the one kid brought in the photos or something like that.
I think the dad shared it. I think the one dad shared it with whoever, and it got to the school. Okay. And the school is like, oh, these kids' moms, or we don't want these kids.
So to take it one step further, think about how many kids are not the reflection of their parents. And so for me, the idea of suspending the kids for parents doesn't make sense to me.
You know, I never thought of it just that way, but the other aspect, and that's perfectly well said. And you're right. Anyone that's in a school system and you've been coaching in a high school system for years and years,
like I could never suspend one of my players because the dad was a jerk in the stands.
Right.
Like that has nothing to do with the player.
Right. That's a very good point. The other aspect is like, so what if, where do you draw the line here? What if mom is an actress and mom plays a role in a movie? Like what if Dakota Johnson, was she the 50 Shades of Grey girl?
Dakota something. It might be Johnson. I'm blanking her last
So
name.
what if they're like, oh, this kid's mom starred in 50 Shades of Grey. She was naked the whole movie. We're not like, it's not porn. It's just an R-rated movie.
Now it's a private institution.
It is a private.
Okay.
Yes.
So that's what they'll stand on. That's
Correct.
what they'll back themselves up on. But that's I would start there with the kids. And then now when you dive into it, it is hypocritical. Like there's no way around it.
You would the fact that a father of another student
can be a member of
it, but you can't be a
well, what is it? An employee or participation?
However you want to do it.
I don't even know how you would describe that.
It is and
it's interesting.
And when it goes back to like the fascinating thing about it is on first thought, I think just to be stereotypical, you would think single mom needed the money. Not single mom, married mom with the blessings of her husband. Hell, her husband may be taking the pictures for her. He may be a photographer.
Right.
And they may be like, we're only the ones that we approve. Like, I mean, it's her site, so it's only the ones that we approve.
Right.
But it could be.
You also get into the weird situation of the platform and like, how different is that platform from Snapchat? How different is that platform from like dark Twitter? Like there are other platforms that are doing.
I don't know what dark Twitter is.
Yes, that's probably a good thing. There's other platforms that are doing similar things. It's just OnlyFans has the reputation of like people know the name and what's happening. So even that part to me is a little sketchy because like, how do you decide which platforms are okay and which ones aren't? And so I think there's levels there that are a fascinating conversation.
It is. You could take this many ways. And you said, all I'm thinking of now is dark chocolate and a Hershey bar. Because I think of like their Hershey bar, and then there's the dark chocolate Hershey bar when you said dark Twitter. And I'm a really big, dark chocolate is delicious.
You also have the other aspect of, if the dad wasn't a subscriber or a member, it never would have happened.
No one would know.
No one would know. Nothing would have happened. So him bringing it to light is not like it's clearly not an invasion of privacy, but like him bringing it to light incriminates himself, and thus like I just don't see how one can be held responsible and the other cannot.
I agree. And that's it is the double standard. And this is where women stand up and say there's an incredible double standard, and there is. And this would be, I would suspect, well, now the kids are certainly going to find a school to go to because somebody's going to and even if it's a private school, I don't know why the kids go to private school as opposed to public school, who knows, but there's going to be a private school who stands up and defends their rights and says this is crazy.
Right.
But the other aspect is, how much more money did they just make this girl?
Oh, a ton. Well, that's another conversation to dive into is, like I looked it up before we got on here. $2.4 billion in payments were used in the year of 2020 to OnlyFans.
2.4 billion.
Billion.
What's Trump worth?
2.4.
Isn't that coincidental?
Yes.
On his 75th.
Laundering it through OnlyFans. That was up 615% before the pandemic. But the point I'm making is like, this is not like a little side gig for a lot of people where like they throw up a picture of some feed and they get $5. There are people.
She ain't turning tricks on the corner.
There are people making hundreds of thousands of dollars on this app.
And according to the thing I read, she's making a lot of money now.
I would believe it. That doesn't, because this is not that it's a risk, but to be married and to already be able to afford private school, and clearly their lifestyle is set.
Right.
You would only put yourself out there if the money was worth it. Like, you're not doing that for $10. Like, you're doing that because it's increasing your portfolio tenfold.
See, I wonder, but you don't know what it's going to be worth up front. I think they were doing it because of kind of like, you know, you only live once. And I think that this was more of a, I would suspect, because I obviously don't know these people,
Sure.
that it was a personal, like, I want to try it. I think I want to do it. I will regret not having done it. You know, because they say that when you're on your deathbed, you're going to regret the things you wanted to do that you didn't do a lot more than the things you did do. So I don't know, but it's a fascinating story, and we'll see. I don't know if we'll ever hear of it again, but I thought it was fascinating.
Yeah, I think they got it. I think the school got it wrong.
Oh, I think everybody thinks. Well, no, and I won't say that. There's a lot of people who are just like, "What is OnlyFans?" But
there's a lot of people that probably pay for a private education that are very happy with what the school did.
Probably,
yes. So I don't think it's everybody's on one side of the issue topic.
But we are in agreement.
Let's do that. Is that good? We're good. That was your 30 minutes right there.
I'm good. I'm good. Yeah, I like that.
We'll save some of the weekend wrap-up stuff for later.
Well, here, I just wanted to touch on a couple things that are just kind of stupid while we're here.
Go ahead.
Tiger Woods has been signed to do golf commentary this week as the U.S. Open. And of course, Tiger, crashed his car and he can't play. But so this will be interesting. It will be interesting to hear Tiger giving commentary.
Yes. My 10-second answer, and I told you this before the show, it's either going to be perfect or it's going to end poorly. There will not be a lot of middle ground with that one.
I think he's going to be really good.
I do too.
Another stupid thing from the sports world, the hockey playoffs are rolling along right now. And tonight, Montreal plays Las Vegas. And it's the first time that a Canadian team has played an American team all year because of COVID. That what hockey did was they took 4 sections of the country. Well, they took Canada, and then they broke the U.S. up into 3 sections of 8, and they only played each other. So now, and then in the first 2 rounds of the playoffs, they only played each other. So they had to get down to only 4 teams left.
Yeah.
And yesterday was the first time when the Islanders played Tampa, was the first time that these 2 teams have played. And in football, it happens sometimes, college football and pro football, because you can't play everyone.
Sure.
But in all the other sports, you never get to this far in the playoffs and you're playing a team that you haven't seen. Basketball, baseball, hockey, you've seen everybody. And it'll never happen again. So it's a cute little anecdote.
Now that I've had an hour to think about it, I agree with everything you said except the very end that it will never happen again. Because I think there's a chance that as these leagues try to expand, and if they have teams in Mexico, they have a team in Europe, they could do it where it's a landlock, like you only play the teams closest to you before you move on to the playoff. But I agree with 99% of what you said.
Yeah, you could be right. They might.
The NBA has been talking about going into Mexico. They've been talking about going to Europe. You could have a 5-team pod in Europe, a 5-team pod in Mexico, and they play each other until they move on.
Right.
But that's now that I've had some time to think about it. But I agree with your sentiment. It will be a long time before we see something like that again.
And here are 3 stupid nature stories. I always joke about my addiction to clickbait. And so these are 3 nature stories that I clicked on. One, there was a 23-foot anaconda pulled out of a river, which of course immediately I was like, where? And I just thought it was going to say like New Jersey. And I dove in and I was pumped, and it was Brazil. And then I was like, well, no wonder. That totally makes sense.
23 is massive, because do you know the world record?
No.
The world record is right around 33 feet. And that was way back in the day.
I mean, 23 is 7 yards. It's almost 8 yards long. 23 is a long way.
23 is about as big as you're going to find today. If they found one any bigger, you're talking like record book, like top 5, like biggest snake ever.
So you can find that story. You can also find another story. I think he was a lobster fisherman or whatever. And he was jumping in to go down and and he literally jumped off his boat, and he was like, hit something. He's like, where am I? And he jumped into a whale's mouth. And I guess he kind of fought his way out, and some other guy saw it. And they said it was like 30 seconds, and the whale spit him out. And he just had minor bruises and stuff like that. But he's in the water. He's like, what happened to me? And he realized he was in a whale's mouth. So you can find that story. I don't know any more about that.
How close have you been to a whale?
As like
did you do like the sea? Okay, you've done like
I would
never
love
seen
to.
a whale.
Not in person. I live in central Pennsylvania.
I know, but you
Do
never.
they have whales in Blossburg?
You never went on like a whale.
No, but I would love
or like
to.
SeaWorld
I would
or
love
like
to.
any of that stuff.
Oh yes, I've seen Shamu.
That's what I'm asking you.
Oh, I thought you meant like on a boat. Like I'd love to go off of New England and go.
Yeah,
I've never done that.
Okay, I've been fortunate enough to do both. It is like, I hate to sound like hippie-ish, like it's life altering, but it is like when you see a real like a gray whale or a humpback whale like out there, it changes your perspective.
I would love on my bucket list things of boring, stupid things to do. I would love to go out in a boat and look at whales.
My last 10-second one about that. We go to Topsail Island in North Carolina. It is the #1 place for sea turtle rehabilitation. They have like the #1 whatever. So they bring these live sea turtles in. Sea turtles, and I didn't know this, are like goldfish. So if you put them in a tiny bowl, they stay small. If you put them in a large thing, like they grow to.
I didn't know that either.
Yes. So sea turtles are the same way. So when you go to this rehab to see these injured sea turtles, they're the size of your dining room table. It is, and again, it's kind of that hippie-ish life-altering moment of like,
I would not have pictured that.
Yes, because you're so used to the aquarium and like, here's this little.
So they're limited.
They are massive.
I would not have known
turtles. I'm telling you, the size of your dining room table, huge.
Huh.
Yep.
All right, and my last little that I didn't even have that on my nature list, but I should have written sea turtles. There's a story that you can find too about worms that in Russia, because so much of Russia is frozen up at the top, that they were pulling frozen worms out of the tundra. That were tens of thousands of years old. They had all these different variations, and they thawed them so they could examine them and date them and stuff. And apparently, after thawing them, 2 of them began moving and ate again.
Yeah.
So it's like Encino Man or whatever those Forever Young. Did you ever see that movie with very underrated George Wendt and Mel Gibson?
Never seen it.
Very underrated. And you'd have to find. That's all I know. These worms supposedly came back to life and
fascinating
and ate. But so those are some things you can look up if you're bored.
It is amazing, like micro life, like things that we can't see. It is amazing. Like, have you ever seen the story about? I think they're called tardigrades.
No.
And they're called water bears is the nickname. Okay. They are these like microscopic, and they look like teeny tiny water bears. They've got like 6 or 8 legs, and they crawl around, but you can't see them. Like they're like, if you go outside and you get a piece of grass and water, like they're all around. You just have no idea that they're there, right? Yeah. These things are like almost unkillable. Like they can survive space, they can survive extreme heat, they can survive in water, land. Like you almost can't kill these things. So the funny, like when you talk about like asteroids or planet killers or anything like that kind of sci-fi stuff, we have things on the planet that are like, they will be here well after the rest of nature is gone. Because they're survivors. Like
that's scary.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
I like my worm story better.
The worm story, but it goes along with it.
Yours sounds very science fiction-ish that we can't survive, and that scares me.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry about that part.
Because when those things grow to the size of my kitchen table, like that's when I'm laying in bed. That's what I'm gonna morph all your stories together, and I'm gonna be like, "There's this thing that we can't kill that's as big as my dining room table, and it's gonna kill me."
Oh no! Well, because a tardigrade, like I'm telling you, you can't see them. Like a tardigrade could be on you right now. You'd have no idea ever that one was on you.
Well, I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid.
Yeah, you're afraid.
I could take.
They're called water bears. You're afraid.
Whatever.
Fascinating. If you get a chance, look them up. They are really neat.
So there's some interesting stories.
Some good ones. That was some great ones. Phoenix Suns are going to make the NBA Finals. They swept the.
No. We'll wait. We'll talk about the Bucks again some other time, because I don't want to mention that after they lost by 40 in Game 2 and everyone's like, oh, they're done. I said they were going to win 4 in a row, and so far they've won 2 in a row.
Yeah. And Alize Johnson got 5 minutes the other night.
I saw that, and he got fouled.
Yes.
I was watching the very end of the game.
Yes.
He got fouled with under 2 minutes to go.
Yes.
But it was the first, because I was like, he's going to go to the line and score. He's going to go to the line and shoot 2. He's going to make at least 1. No. And he is going to be, but it was the first foul under 2 minutes.
Yes.
So he didn't get to go to the line. Well, it's the second foul under 2 minutes, right? Yes. So I was like, he was that close
So
too.
close.
And he did have, I saw 4 rebounds, 5 rebounds.
Well, at the rate they're going, like he might start getting some minutes.
He might start because
they're
everybody else is hurt.
They're falling apart pretty quickly.
Yes,
So
and you're
it
going to
could
say,
happen.
well, Mark, your prediction wasn't brilliant. Like all their good players got hurt, which is not true. All of their good players didn't get hurt, but they have started dropping like proverbial flies.
Phoenix Suns, NBA champions 2021.
Tonight, Sixers Hawks, big one.
It is a big one. If Hawks win, I like their chances.
Also, Vegas, Montreal.
I don't know what that is. Is that lacrosse? Hockey. I got it. Thank you guys for watching the Midday Show. Thank you to Weiss Markets for being our title sponsor. Be sure to go there for all your grocery needs. And thank you to NorthcentralPa.com. Be sure to go there for all your local news as well. And enjoy your week. This was a good start.
It's a good start. We're ready. We got a winner. And happy birthday to, and again, I know he's the most polarizing president ever. And, I'm a Democrat, but he was president, whatever. And so happy birthday to Donald Trump. He's 75 years old. And it's just too bad that we can't have more civil political discussions. That's what you and I are bringing to the world. Civil discussions about whatever topic. You bring us a topic. You want to talk about Loyal Sock basketball? I can have a civil discussion.
I don't think you could. I think you would struggle.
You think?
I do think that you would struggle with it. Thank you guys for watching. I'm Jeff Everett. He's Mark Messina, and we will see you tomorrow.
I can have a civil discussion.